Coming in live from Pante Makassar on Timor Island. We are here with the 17th, and that means the fourth to final edition of ESL Cup Fueled by Dare, Open Cup Fueled by Dare. I am your host, Yaku of Ducklings, and with me today we have La Pequeña Guisante que bebe todo el té, Light _VIP. How we doing, Light?
What's up, Yaku? We're here. We're live once again with another week of ESL Open Cup Fueled by Dare. As you said, this is the fourth last iteration. So, hey, let's get this going.
That we shall. And in the top right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner of Pillars of Gold, we have a blue Terran coming all the way from the land of Brisbane. Representing Legacy Esports, we have the man with Harpoon himself, Batty Azure. Hi.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Pillars of Gold, LE, currently getting proxy racks, we have the Australian Protoss player representing Legacy Esports. It is Probe. Did I intro him twice?
I don't think so, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
We do know that this is a style of play that Probe is not too fond of. In fact, in the previous weeks where Probe did play in a PvT, often than not, the Terran players would usually have success from doing a proxy such as this.
Yeah, I like it. Azure taking, he's a big fan of the OCEC, and he's taking a big page out of Hut's book. And yeah, it's really interesting how he's decided to play this out. And he's not like overly committed either. It's only one proxy racks.
That it is, and I'm actually not too sure what Azure is going to get done here, but he does force a bit of a reaction out of Probe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree. It's just proxy single rack, so it's not meant to really like end the game. But as we can see, gets a Probe quick. Another. Oh no, he's gonna get surrounded. Oh, let's be careful. Oh god, the jinx. Oh.
Juking and jiving is
wow.
Here. But Azure manages to, like a snake charmer, just compel the Probes to not be there.
Just like Black Mamba himself. Wow, amazing play there. I for sure thought Azure was going to get surrounded because of the gateway positioning for Probe behind the mineral line. So it was really sick to see him sneak out of there.
Yeah, you just gotta be a bit like a soccer player. Just go back and forth a little bit. You never know where they're gonna go. And one thing that I find really interesting here, Light, is Azure. He has not given up on his proxy.
Oh, what a big brain. I like how he lifted it up, he flew it over and landed it back down and then made this. For
all Probe is concerned, that barracks is still making its way across the map, and it's gonna be slow.
Oh my, exactly right. Like it was lifted up, it went across, and then just went to the other side of the wall. It continued another kind of proxy. I mean, Concussive Shell is about to finish up, and we're gonna have a bunch of Marauders, and Marauders, they're pretty good against gateway units.
That they definitely are. I mean, they take a while to kill
like zealots.
But yeah, they can fight them for days. That's the reverse Stalker Marine build. And one thing that's kind of important to keep in mind is that because Probe doesn't think Azure has a production, he did decide to go for that natural expansion right now.
Oh my god, and we do see that Zealot is running across the map as well, so it's not going to be at home for defense either. And really a Zealot would be key here because it just buys so much time, because as you said, it takes a long time for a Murder to kill. It looks like Azure is pushing up the right bit of the natural. He gets the lock onto the Stalker.
And this is the first of a something. He does need to keep that Cyclone alive though, as that Phoenix is about to pop out, and that's going to be causing a lot of bother. Very nice surround of the Probes.
Oh, yeah, he's repairing.
He is repairing, though. Yeah, it sure is. And again, this Phoenix is trying to find a good angle to try to lift a Cyclone, but now another Cyclone is out. GG is called. And Azure, there's some very, very big brain moves. One.
That was amazing. We didn't get to mention it, but there were boys being pulled, and I was like, "Yo, is he gonna use them to like buffer and attack?" And no, their primary focus was to repair the cyclone. And to be fair, even if one of the cyclones went down, like there was a backup cyclone as well. And yeah, Probe, he was not prepared for that at all.
Indeed, he wasn't.
Hey, so
And this is a little bit of that reverse dynamic. You normally see a Protoss player being the one who is a lot more cunning, a lot more of a, deceptive, making your opponent think one way or another. But Azure, getting into Probe's head a little bit here.
Yakuzaku, this is one of those like builds that's like almost Fueled-esque, and and I would actually be like, hey, mate, maybe you should take a look at this and like try it yourself. Like the Terran players out there, like that was actually I've never seen a Terran player do that. Maybe it's a little bit more prominent on the ladder, but that was like really sick to see.
Yeah, it definitely was, and I like that when Fuely comes up, it was so serious you had to use my full name.
Oh my god, yeah, it was yeah, that was just it's one of those proxies. It's like there's just so much mind games behind it, so much like, the fact that you lift it up, you lift it away, so it makes it look like you're going back home and it's done. There's just a lot that goes into it, and that's like the best kind of build.
I do kind of know. I know things. And speaking of knowing things, we are now on Eternal Empire, L-E-E-L-E-Ile, where in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we do in fact have a blue Terran player coming out all the way from the land of Brisbane. He is the man with harpoon, the man with the many racks. Do you even lift? Bruh, as this man does. Representing Legacy Esports, we have Azure. Surprisingly not in the Azure color.
He's close. He's close. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Eternal Empire LE, currently not really getting proxy racks, but also kinda at the same time. We have some more mind games going on. I love it. We have his teammates also representing Legacy Esports. It is Probe.
And I like this right now. Azure really trying to test his teammates' mental fortitude in a way, his composition, like how composed he can be.
Yeah, do you think the real question is that we're going to ask ourselves, is Probe going to fall for this? So we do see the racks at the third base location. The goal behind this is that it isn't a proxy. It's meant to look like a proxy, hoping his opponent Probe scouted, which he did. And
already we have a Zealot coming out from Probe.
Oh my god.
And another Probe is going around to try to look for these proxies.
Yeah, he's scouting for it.
Value done. Probe, oh no, my boy.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't blame him, right? Especially after game number 1. Like, I love this coming out from Azure. Like, this is how you play a best of 3 series, right? Like, game number 1 affects how your opponent feels going into game number 2, and he's just playing this out normally, and it's exactly what Probe doesn't expect.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Man.
Oh boy.
Getting a little worried for Probe right now. Still just trying to go around and really reluctant to take an expansion. Now, we will have to see how aggressive Azure decides to be this game, as if he decides to go a lot more greedy, this is going to help him out a lot, but if he decides to be aggressive, Probe is going to have a field day with his defense.
Yeah, we do see Azure here pulling a little bit of a Tasia, whereas his 1-1-1 is completely outside the main base. I like how his probe is still in the main, trying to scout and see what is going on. Yeah.
Probing around. And yeah, I guess the real question is how this Probe come back after being a little bit bamboozled. It doesn't look too bad for him. He will be able to get his natural base once he confirms that there isn't a proxy anywhere. Will be able to get that Stargate as well.
Yeah, and as you say, confirming there isn't a proxy, that's exactly what he does. His Zealot is able to find this and runs into all 4 of the Hellions. So now Probe, finally, he knows what is going on.
Definitely does, and he's going to be a little bit reluctant to send his probes down into that natural base. Hellions will definitely try to juke around the Stalkers and try to get some damage in the main, so we'll see how good his body blocking can be. I like it already on the ramp, and another one just to probe around.
Yeah, I love this body blocking from Probe. It's so smart. But there are 2 Reapers, and those mines can always like push them around so that the Hellions could dive in. Yeah, KDA charge. That's
Grenades.
it. Grenades.
Granada.
Grenada. But it looks like Azure, he's not going for that. He just poked in, saw the defense, and he's like, you know what? It's not worth it. Like I could try and juggle the Stalkers on the ramp and try and dive in, but you know, I'm just gonna play this out.
Yeah, now going with the Liberator, trying to sneak around. I think it would have been a bit better timed if he went in with both of his units, both of his attacks, as you know, the Stalkers were on the ramp, but it seems like he's able to sneak in anyway. And Probe did not, in fact, notice that. The Phoenix is way up in the front. Not going to be able to deal with that Liberator until now. Might, in fact, lose the Stalker if Probe isn't careful. He does. And Probe, he is not playing too well right now.
Yeah, his attention was elsewhere, and that Liberator was able to sneak in, get some decent damage, but oh, here we go. Now that the Liberator is dealt with, the Phoenixes, they can finally push out across the map, pick off some of these units, and regain map control.
Yeah, and I think that Probe is actually going to be really successful doing this. Azure, he's got a bit of an army to the south, and okay, oh my God, that's a pretty scary army.
That's a big boy army right now. Even pooling SCVs for repairs or throwing down bunkers is a lot available there. And here Probe, he's camping the production. So now Azure, what he's sending across the map is all he has, and I imagine recall is going to be used. Like it has to be used to try and bring everything back home.
Now we have a bit of a base trade. Probe is actually marching his way back home. He does not want to be caught with his pants down. You know, he wants to save his recall for if he really needs it. The shield battery is going to go down, and that's even more tricky for our Red Protoss player. He does not have that overcharge available to him, and yeah, I just don't see a way for Probe to keep his Nexus.
Yeah, like all these Stalkers are going to try and converge upon this. I mean, the Phoenixes can lift up the tanks as well.
And they do. Very nicely done. There's not enough anti-air here to take out those Phoenixes, but it looks like Azure might have enough. Now the second shield battery does finish up. Battery overcharge is on the way. A lot of probes have gone down, but Probe is helpless.
He has held this. He killed all the high-tech units. He's pushing Azure back. And now Probe, he's looking in a pretty decent position, like equal worker counts. The production is kind of vulnerable for Azure as well. But in saying that defensively, like, you know, he's got a tank, he's got a decent amount of Marines. I think we could, especially on Eternal Empire, see this continue on.
Yeah, we will have to... I mean, Azure's still going to have to pick where he decides to put his tank, though.
Yeah.
So he can choose side to protect his mineral line or his production, but not both.
Oh god, and the Stalkers are on top of the production. That's the big issue here. Oh, the Cyclone does get away though, and oh my god, it looks like these production buildings, they could go down. The jury's gonna try and stop this though.
Yeah, not quite the amount of DPS that Probe wants though for this production, and now that Azure has confirmed where Probe's army is, he knows that he can afford to send his tank down and protect his production. His mineral line is going to be pretty safe for the time being.
Yeah, that was actually really well done. And as we can see, like Azure, because of how this game opened up, like he's being stretched a little bit thin. Like he has to try and defend the production, then try and defend his bases as well from the Phoenixes. Phoenixes just keep coming into the mineral line, like trying to do more and more damage. So yeah. But so far, Azure, he's doing a pretty good job. Oh god.
Yeah, important to know that while all this is going on, Probe, he's decided, I'm just gonna macro up. I'm gonna get my third base behind all of this, and Azure will be trying to slow this down with that Liberator, but it's not looking like Azure can do anything to get back other than getting his own expansion.
Yeah, like he definitely doesn't have an army to punish the third base of Probe, so it's really smart that Probe went for that. I love how the Liberator is denying a lot of mining time. It will get dealt with though, and as you were saying, Azure, like I do think that eventually he will probably need to get a third base unless he just goes for more of a... Yeah, he's just going for it.
Stim is about 60% done. By the time this gets across the map, I think Stim should just about finish up. We'll have to be very careful. There are Colossus with this army. Because you're really going to have to use the best use of his one Marauder to take damage. Azure not actually aware of that third base, so he is trying to go into natural. Which can actually work out pretty well. You know, splitting the Protoss army, making them defend on two fronts. That's not terrible. Even pulling the boys.
Yeah, he's pulling a couple of boys for repairs as well. We saw him do this last time as well. And because there's only one Colossus, this could work, but he gets spotted by the Phoenixes.
And there's not a lot of buffer either. Charge is on the way right now, and a couple of Zealots are being warped in. That is still a pretty vulnerable position. Without Thermal Lance, there is still quite a lot that Azure can get done.
Ooh. That was actually a pretty nice pickup there. A bunch of Marines were yeah, they were caught on the other side of the wall, but nice pickup. And I mean, it's so awkward trying to push into this choke point.
Indeed, it is, which is... Yeah, Azure has really set himself out where if he moves even an inch, he is going to be leaving something vulnerable, whether it's the tanks that are Phoenixes, his Marines that are Colossus, or anything to anything.
And Charge is going to finish up in a couple of seconds as well. I love that he's throwing down a missile turret to protect the back end from those Phoenixes to stop the tanks from being lifted. But at the same time, yeah, and I don't know who to favor now because Charge just finished, but Combat Shields and Concussive Shield just finished as well.
I think it's all going to come down to if Azure wins this fight, he is going to snowball into the victory. But if he cannot,
the Phoenixes.
Big Probe is a little bit too far ahead. The Phoenixes do get taken out, and a hot pickup behind this. Already some really nice value. Azure can't afford to leave his tanks more exposed now, which means he can go over to Bio.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, a bit of a bad investment there in the missile turret. You don't need it anymore because the Phoenix got taken out. But Azure, his push is still looking incredibly strong. Extended Thermal Lance did just start for Probe, but I can't imagine it's going to be done for this.
Yeah, we do have triple Colossus right now. These Zealots trying to go for a flank, but I think there is enough Bio here to keep it alive. Probe now going in from every angle, and you can really see how effective these Colossus can be during these choke points. Did lose a lot of gateway units, but I don't know. The Colossus are still alive. Thermal Lance is on the way.
Yeah, and it feels like it's kind of a timer right now for Azure. Like, once Thermal Lance finishes, the Probe's army is just going to be so much more effective to deal with this. At the same time, though, like, Azure, well done. Like, he was able to hold that first initial push. The overcharge was actually used and wasted there already, so it won't be available for this next one.
But Azure is starting to push on in. We do see that Dark Shrine that Probe, I'm thinking, is going to be using as more of a harassment tool, trying to force Azure into an all-in, although Azure already is in a bit of an all-in. Very much so in a timer right now. His idea right now is to try to force Probe into him.
Yeah, and there's a flank at the same time. There's a Disruptor out as well.
Is a Disruptor, and there is a flank. Azure trying to defend on two places at once right now. These Zealots will eventually get wiped out. So this flank not getting too much damage done, and I think Azure might have just done it. His Bio is looking pretty unstoppable. The Disruptor has gone down, and what are the Colossus going to do against these Marauders? Good use of the battery overcharge, but I think there's just a little bit too much DPS for Azure. These Zealots, though, they are starting to chew through the Bio and the tanks.
Yeah, but the Colossus, the Nexus goes down, the Colossus in the main base is going to go down as well. There's only one left.
So to favor right now, Light, and I think Azure might have just barely done it. The Marauders are moving forward onto the, they're moving forward onto the Colossus. The DTs are now out.
There's a scan.
Available, but again, Marauders, they are not exactly the ideal unit to deal with DTs, and I don't know, Light, I think Probe might have just held here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the DTs were so clutch. They were actually able to kill the tank in the center of that big push, just breaking the position of Azure. And Azure, he only had one scan available. As you were pointing out, he only had Marauders, and Marauders are not what you want to deal with DTs. And it was looking so close, just a little bit more, and Azure honestly would have been able to take this game right then and there. But Probe was just able to hold on.
Yeah, just able to hold on to life, however. Yes, he did lose the Nexus behind that. Both players now on about an even economy. Azure actually ahead in the gas because he has more geysers, as well as the minerals because of mules.
Wait, whoa, no!
Azure, what are you thinking, buddy? You're getting your third base.
Wait,
Right, this is a gamble. This is a gamble for Azure.
This is definitely a gamble. And I think it did get spotted by the DT of Probe, so I think Probe knows it's coming. This is so smart because he reset the Colossus count. Like ideally, when you see this back in the day, you use this to buffer for Colossus, like the SCVs, but there's no Colossus, so actually this could work.
Yeah, you're right. It could definitely work, but if it doesn't, we'd have known Probe to be a very good defensive player. If it doesn't work, then yeah, Azure just loses all of his SCVs. Very nice force fields come out.
Oh my god.
But I think you're right here, Light. I think Probe has been reset in terms of the Colossus count, has been reset in terms of production and economy enough that Azure is now looking to just snowball into that victory. Scans last quite a bit of time.
Yeah, they do. He was able to kill the reinforcing DT, but again, Probe, he keeps warping in more and more DTs. Like, this is his saving grace right now, that you need scans to be able to deal with them. And they're focusing down the tanks.
Are starting to focus down the tanks, and these Archons are having quite a field day right now. Nice little bit of splitting from Azure, but in the end, there's not so much you can really do when there are force fields. Trying to fight this Archon within battery range, don't think that's the right idea right now, Azure. And I mean, Azure, he's killed the third base, but he lost a lot of, yeah, GG. A lot of SCVs behind that. I don't think he should have gone for that SCV.
GG. And honestly, I think it would have worked if it wasn't for just constant defensive DT warp-ins. Like, at a certain point, he just ran out of scan energy. Like, he only had 2 CCs, right? Like, he didn't have a third.
I think, honestly, the DTs weren't as big of an impact so much as those force fields were.
Yeah, the force fields, they bought a lot of time for Probe. And even though Probe didn't have a lot of AoE, like, you know, he had an Archon, I think, maybe 2 Archons.
He had an Archon, and he constantly kept sort of goading Azure into shield battery range.
Yeah, and even though Azure, he killed the third base, like ending it out, like it was just not enough. But honestly, that was really well played. Like that was incredibly close.
I mean,
yeah, like Azure,
Azure made it close towards the end there.
Sure, definitely. Like you can definitely argue, and I think I was completely with you where Azure, he was ahead in workers. Like he was working on his third base. Like he could have macroed out of that. Like this is definitely a possibility that he could have gone for. Instead, he decided to just go all in. And yeah, it's one of those decisions where, you know,
a little bit more baffling as well, because looking at the stream right now, he was getting that third CC.
Yeah, it's I agree. It's a bit of a shame because if he had played that out, because to be fair, like he can't see how many workers Probe is on. Like he doesn't know how many he killed. He doesn't know how far ahead he was, which he was ahead.
Yeah, Azure really did not know for how long Probe had that third base up. So I guess from Azure's perspective, he's thinking, oh, Probe probably had that base for a long time. He's probably in a very healthy economy, despite me taking out that natural base. I need to do something to get myself either even more ahead or just end it out. And yeah, in the end, it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, and GG, well played. Probe ties it up, and we're going to the ace match.
That we are.
Yes, it will be on Everdream LE, and oh my god, just the way this series has played out has been amazing. Are we gonna see Azure proxy, or in game number 3, is he gonna play straight up?
Well, I mean, we are on Everdream, so if you play straight up, it's kind of a similar timing to a proxy. And speaking of a proxy, we are now here on Everdream, ideally Edle, we're in the bottom left-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. We have a blue Terran player coming down all the way from the land of Brisbane, representing Legacy Esports, looking to clinch out that team kill. We have Azure. Ahai.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Everdream LE, we have the Australian Protoss player, also representing Legacy Esports. It is Probe.
I would like this to be the game that Probe decides to proxy.
The turns have been tabled. I would have loved it if he did that.
Yeah. But nah, Probe is going to be playing this more straight up. He knows he knows that it's more likely for him to win by doing so rather than risking a bit of a proxy there.
Yeah, I mean, he's on match point, right? And you like Probe, he isn't really one to go down this early on in these ESL weeklies. So yeah, we'll see how this plays out. At the moment, you know, pretty straight up, pretty standard. I'm really curious to see how Azure plays because I feel like he's the kind of player to dabble in mech in TVP if he had the opportunity to.
Yeah, funnily enough, I kind of agree with you there. I feel like we don't watch enough of Azure's TVP because, for obvious reasons,
There's a lot of Zerks in the region. Yeah.
I feel like almost every time I watch Azure go TVP, he plays it in more of a bio style, which personally, no complaints. I love that style, but you're right there. I feel like if there was any player, Australian Terran player, who would go for a sort of battle mech style, it would be Azure.
Yeah. I'm mainly bringing that up because it is like a play style that is coming more into fashion in this matchup. Like I think TY and Juanito, that's special. They've been doing it a lot more. It's becoming a little bit more. I don't know if I want to go as far as to say popular, but just we just see it a little bit more often.
Yeah, I think we are at a phase where players are experimenting with mech. It's not quite popular yet, but TY, if you can pull something off, it'll eventually become the way.
Yeah, that it will. And so far, Azure, he's here across the map with his first Reaper, just scouting, making sure there's nothing crazy going on. That Probe is in fact playing straight up, which again I don't blame him for. Like we've seen how Probe has also kind of been being a little bit more
dabbled in a bit of dark arts, if you will, corrupted by the Hydra.
Yeah. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. And I love this Azure proxying his starport.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to go for a bit of a Hellion drop.
What?
But Probe does manage to scout this with the Adept. Might actually deny this. Only takes 2 more hits. Actually, no. This Adept not taking out the SCV. Come on, only 2 more. But they... War Prism? No,
Starport?
Starport finishes up. What did I say? War Prism?
Like, I would have accepted Stargate, right? Like, we always make that mistake, but War Prism?
Not even a building! I think I was thinking of the medevac, right? And whatever.
Oh my god, and just like that, the War Prism does finish up for Azure. It is going to be a Liberator. I was contemplating whether it would be, it wasn't even a medevac that was being made.
Well, he got a medevac and then he cancelled the lib.
Okay.
Which is understandable. The medevac drop does draw a little bit does rely a little bit on that element of surprise.
Yeah, there's like one of 2 options, right? You either get a medevac, so you can drop the Hellions into the main, or you get a Liberator, and you can do like 2-pronged attacks or merge it all together. There's options. Oh.
Yeah, you get to
do a
lot of stuff. It's not quite a wall. Now, the Hellions are still going to have a bit of a tough time, but they do manage to make it in, and they are looking for these probes. Very good pull, though, by Probe. In the end, only loses 2 to those Hellions.
Yeah, but the Lib.
The Lib is mad. It's sharking around right now, and yeah, Probe is getting a little bit pulled back and forth here. It's almost like a Glaive to Depth game in a PvZ.
Yeah, and he will lose a Stalker here. Does lose a couple more probes, so this Lib is actually, dealing some decent damage.
Actually, not too bad. The harass done by Azure. I think one of the better outcomes of having a proxy starport scouted.
Yeah, definitely. Like, he didn't just kill these 7 probes, he was also able to kill, I believe it was 2 stalkers. So yeah, and a little bit of lost mining time. So decent damage. He may lose his starport here though if he doesn't try and save it.
His War Prism out, so he doesn't.
He could lose his War Prism if he's not too careful.
This is fine. You need to keep it in the back of the army.
So this is a pretty expensive loss. It is a bit of a shame, but yeah, it does get dealt with in the end. And as we saw, Probe, he is expanding and taking his 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, losing the starport is always bad. It means that if Azure decides to go for if Azure wants any sort of presence on the map, he's going to be delayed for quite a bit. But to look on the bright side, to think of it a bit more optimistically, it gives Azure a bit more time to build up his army.
Yeah, and if he wasn't 100% sure earlier, he does know that Probe does have Blink on his Stalkers. Like, that was revealed when he was taking out the starport. It did buy a little bit of time, and yeah, so far Azure, he's just securing himself here on 2 bases, and he has a pretty decent army.
Yeah, I love this observer sniping. He immediately sees it. I was like, nope, just gonna pop you.
Eyes like a fly. Eyes like a hawk. Exactly. Let's go like 10 on each.
Oh. Can I have some? I feel like I don't have enough.
Meanwhile, here we go. The push out is coming, and the big problem with this push is that as you were saying earlier, like, there are no medevacs with this. There was no more starport production.
Yeah, I think Azure is playing this out with the idea of, I'm gonna just try to boost my medevacs across the map. I know I have to put up some kind of pressure on you, otherwise you're just gonna happily macro up, and I'm just gonna try to get a foothold at your 3rd base location. Wait for my medevacs to come in. Azure does need to be a little bit careful. Probe still has these stalkers roaming across the map. Does not want to lose the medevacs whilst they are in transit.
Oh yeah, and these stalkers, they try and dive in and pick off a tank hero or 2, but so far they've been unsuccessful. And here we go. He's pretty much all in once again with this big SCV pool.
Every time Azure stims, he's got to be so careful.
Yeah.
The medevac is still quite a ways off. And now Probe is setting himself pretty nicely to get a multi-prong. Beautiful flank coming out from Probe. These Zealots going right onto the tanks. Not enough bio to deal with that. But we do see the bio of Azure trying to take out the Colossus and take out the shield battery. Not quite going to be enough. Azure does manage to secure his place here with 1 tank. But
exactly, that's the big problem, right? Like, that flank. Yeah, that flank killed 3 tanks for Azure. He only has 1 left, and he needs. Go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, trying to get some of these bunkers up, but it's not gonna be an easy task when you have 2 Colossus here, and the tanks aren't exactly in a position to have enough vision to defend. But the medevacs are on their way. In fact, here they are now. So this is gonna help Azure up quite a bit. Bunkers are actually gonna be finishing up, and that's actually pretty huge. It's gonna make defense so much tougher.
You don't often see the bunkers finish up, and it looks like, this Nexus, it's in danger.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how dedicated Azure is on that Nexus. The firepower is being drawn away into those Colossus. Battery overcharged once again. Probe making the absolute best use he can of it, but it does run out, and the bunker actually still holds. This 3rd base goes down.
Wow, and again, the Colossus is so close to getting sniped as well. There were just so many shield batteries here keeping it alive. And if we look at the workers, like the worker count, it's pretty even. Azure, he killed the base. Like, he's not in an awful position, and he's just going to continue to deal more damage.
Excellent. I think you nailed it when you said you don't often see the bunkers finished up. I think a lot of Terran players usually don't quite have the support on their SCVs there, but Azure, he figured it out. He knew I had to place the tanks there, I had to place whatever units I needed wherever they were. And allowed his work to pick up, and now he's starting to leapfrog. I fear that Probe may just get strangled out.
Yeah, I love that Probe, he does have his stalkers out here trying to catch reinforcements. I haven't found any quite yet, but, value will be found. Meanwhile, here we have 4 tanks for Azure, even though 3 were picked off earlier. Like, he has a decent size decent amount of tanks here, and he's starting to shell away at the gateways.
And look at this defensive setup of Azure. It's not too big, but because he knows that Probe, most of his army is going to be defending, he doesn't need it to be too, he doesn't need his own base defense to be too powerful.
Yeah, definitely, and we do see a couple of, like, the leapfrog of the bunkers. Oh, we have the flanking stalkers, but they're going to run into the bunker. So, really nice defense. Oh, Liberator!
Yeah, Liberator looking to get picked off, or at least one of them will. Not quite yet.
And that could be huge. Like, Liberators are great in this position.
They really are. I mean, Probe is starting to get a couple of disruptors out now, but as you were saying, what are disruptors going to do against... Disruptors are going to be really good against these tanks, but what are they going to do against Lib?
Exactly, disruptors, they don't shoot up, and the Liberators are starting to shell away at the army. We have Probe trying to break this position.
Good game, well played. Good luck. Probe himself acknowledging that this was really well fought, and GG is going to be called. Wowee light. Okay. Unexpected. Pretty unexpected result, and honestly, some pretty unexpected builds and tactics coming out from Azure. I normally think of him as kind of that, he's kind of that mass bio, mass drop kind of style, normally when I think of Azure in a TVP. But yeah, he's really showing us that he's learned a couple new builds. He's diversifying. He's not the only legacy player who can play differently.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know if Azure has done this, but to me he almost played almost like Oreo-esque. I don't know, like coming
like
into
he may have improvised a couple of those decisions. Yeah.
yeah, like as in like Oreo, he's a player who goes in and like he has like a plan, you know, or maybe like he improvises afterwards, but like he went in like knowing how he wanted to play out each game. He had an idea for each scenario, and it just his execution was just on point. Like even though it was a 2-1, like even game number 2, we were talking about it, right? Like his push was so strong that economically he was ahead after that first push failed. It was his decision to just go all in afterwards, but like, you know, potentially it could have been like a 2-0.
Really could have been. And I think another thing that really shines in this series, especially in that final game, is Azure. He really understands positioning. He really understands where to siege up his tanks, where to place his bio, you know, how to have every unit support one another, how to synergize in order to get the maximum value out of it. This is a whole new Azure.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm legitimately impressed. Like Azure, he's a Terran player that sometimes, at least I sleep on compared to the others being Hut and Seether in the region, right? Azure to me has always been like top 3, but like has kind of like just not been just under that like top echelon of Australian Terran. But today, like he played so insanely well against Probe. Probe, of course, being like one of the best, if not the best Australian player, period, you know?
Yeah, I think we've said that we started saying this a couple of months ago, where Probe, without a doubt, the top player, but the other players are starting to catch up. I think that time may have come.
Yeah, that was basically our theme around narrative, around DreamHack, right? Going into DreamHack, like and you know, the months leading up to it, everyone has been getting better and better. Azure, you know, he recently made it to the finals of an ESL Open Cup versus Demi. Azure, he also won a GPO. Like Azure, he's looking on fire recently, even showcasing it here today. And I just, what a game, what a series.
What a series. So really proving that the spirit of Fuely still lives on.
F's in the chat for Fuely. That's such a niche reference. Like, even I'm sure there's even
his builds.
Yeah, I'm sure there's even people in the oceanic scene who's like, Fuely, who's that? Like, oh my god, Fuely. Of course, he was the 4th, the unspoken Terran player who
he was deaf.
Yeah,
he was the 4th horseman.
He was the 4th horseman who eventually did switch to Protoss, unfortunately, and then stepped away from the game entirely. But yeah, you know, he used to be. I'm sorry for bringing this up.
I actually messaged him during one of those Australian Opens when they were still a thing. Like, hey, I used to steal my builds from you and whatnot. I used to do 3-Rex Reaper, and I took that build from you. And he was like, oh yeah, I switched to Protoss once Blizzard nerfed that build.
Yeah. Shout out to Fuely, by the way. If you're out there somewhere, you know, hope you're doing well. And yeah, it's just, again, really shout out to Azure. You know, congratulations on taking out the best, the highest ranked Australian player, period. Knocks him out of the tournament, and he's looking to make a deep run. Like just looking at the bracket for a moment, like I would love to be able to catch like potentially an Azure versus Oreo.
Oh, you're right there. Both players, they understand preparation really well. and they understand how to improvise. And when the plan doesn't quite go as planned, but yeah, sure. I mean, he's been in the finals 2 weeks in a row, and will he make it once again this time and potentially clinch out that victory? We only have this is the fourth final ESL Fueled by Dare. Not a lot of them left.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. We did mention it last week, of course, and we'll probably be mentioning it every single week, how ESL Open Cup Fueled by Dare, it is coming to a close. It feels like only just like last week or last month, like we just started this tournament series, but yes, there are only 20 iterations confirmed at the moment. So we are nearing the end of this tournament series' run, but it's been amazing. It's been a blast.
Absolutely has. And we found some narrative.
There's been plenty, right? Like there was like remember, it was crazy. Exactly, I was about to say that the return of Hut with his royal road, like that was insane. And then he returned to Tarkov.
No, he returned to Tarkov, never signed up for another Open Cup, and then one day decided, yeah, why not? I'll sign up, and then he just won the whole thing.
Yeah, like, oh my god,
not really exuding that big Tarkov energy.
Big Tarkov energy. You know, of course, we have like Seether, you know, performing incredibly well always. The rise of Mio and Micah, or maybe even I would say like the rise and fall of Probe, where early on Probe was the one dominating, and now I feel like it's been a while since we've seen him win one of these.
Yeah, well, it does take time after when you've been in a bit of a break. You know, you can really. I think a lot of people do underestimate how much your skill can kind of how much is required to whip yourself back into shape. It does take quite a bit of time.
Yeah, definitely. And it also, as we were saying, it goes to show leading into DreamHack like how good all these other players are, where we've seen them like take series off of Pro. Like it isn't as dominant, or he isn't as like dominant as he used to be, and that makes it more like competitive, more exciting, right? To see players like Azure take him out. And yeah, like we'll see if that continues here. It looks like we may have our next series, depending on if we can find one of our players. I
have a little bit of insider information as a whatchamacallit broadcaster person. This may be a bit of an interesting matchup.
Yeah. You say broadcast person, but also as a Duckling, right? It's been a while. I don't know if we've. Yeah, I don't know if we've.
Real quick, like.
Oh.